The secret to making a woman feel deeply, emotionally attached to you is almost nothing to do with what you say, what you own, or how impressive you are on paper. It's not a formula you can memorize or a tactic you can deploy. It comes down to one single feeling you create in her. A feeling that is so rare and so powerful that when she finds it, she will hold on to it with everything she has. And I know this because I felt it. I once went on 2 first dates in the same week, and the stark contrast between them was like a masterclass in human connection. It taught me everything about what men think women want versus what we actually crave. The first guy, let's call him Mark, was, by all accounts, perfect. He had the Ivy League education, the high-powered finance job, the casual story about climbing a mountain in Peru. He chose a restaurant where the wine list was thicker than a novel and the waiter pronounced prosciutto with an almost intimidating authenticity. He was confident, articulate, and he held eye contact like he'd taken a course in it. I spent the entire 2 hours nodding like a bobblehead, my mind racing to keep up, thinking, wow, this guy is a catch. I should be impressed. I am impressed. But as I drove home, the sterile quiet of my car was deafening. I replayed the conversation and realized it wasn't a dialogue, it was a presentation. He had presented his resume, and I had presented mine. I felt nothing. Less than nothing, actually. I felt a strange sense of exhaustion, the kind you feel after a performance. It was like I just survived a very pleasant, very high-stakes job interview for a position I wasn't even sure I wanted. The second guy, let's call him Leo, was just a guy. Our date was a simple walk to get coffee. There was no fancy restaurant, no performative charm. He wasn't telling me about his 10-year plan or his stock portfolio. We were just talking about stupid things, the worst movie we'd ever seen, the time he tried to cook a fancy dinner for his friends and nearly set his kitchen on fire, ending up ordering 3 large pizzas in shame. It was nice, comfortable, but nothing earth-shattering. And then, at one point, we were waiting to cross the street, and there was a natural lull in the conversation. It wasn't awkward, just a quiet moment. And he just laughed to himself and shook his head. I asked him what was funny, and he looked at me, with no agenda, no script, and said, honestly, I'm just a little nervous. You're way more interesting than I was expecting, and I'm trying to think of something smart to say. And in that moment, something shifted. It was like a movie scene where the sound suddenly focuses, and the background noise fades away. The entire atmosphere changed. I felt the tension in my own shoulders, tension I didn't even know I was holding, just release. My smile became real, not the polite one I'd been wearing. Mark, the perfect guy, had made me feel like I needed to be impressive. Leo, the guy who admitted he was nervous, made me feel like I could just be me. And that's when it hit me with the force of a revelation. What Mark was doing was performing. What Leo was doing was connecting. Mark was trying to earn my approval. Leo was creating emotional safety. And that, right there, is the entire key. The foundation of real, lasting emotional attachment isn't attraction, or money, or status, it's the profound feeling of safety. The feeling that she can finally, completely, let her guard down around you and not be judged, abandoned, or misunderstood. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Safety? Olivia, that sounds boring. That sounds like the friend zone. And that is the biggest, most fundamental misunderstanding that holds good men back. The safety I'm talking about isn't the sterile, passionless safety of a brother or a friend. It's the thrilling, exhilarating safety of a man who is so confident in himself that he isn't threatened by her reality. It's the safety that says, bring your chaos. Bring your ambition. Bring your fears. They're all welcome here. That kind of safety doesn't kill attraction, it's the soil in which deep, passionate, lasting attraction actually grows. So today, we're not talking about a list of 11 tricks. Forget the list. We're going deeper. We're going to talk about the 3 core pillars that create that feeling of safety, the kind that makes a woman not just want you, but trust you, open up to you, and truly bond with you on a level most men never reach. Pillar 1, be a witness, not a judge. Every woman you will ever meet has a collection of stories, insecurities, and past mistakes that she keeps locked away in a vault. She's learned, often through painful experience, that sharing these things can lead to judgment. She's been told she's too sensitive, too dramatic, or just plain crazy. She's had her feelings explained away or, worse, used against her. So, she keeps that vault locked tight. The man who is given the key to that vault, the man who she trusts to enter that space and just look around without trying to rearrange the furniture, becomes absolutely irreplaceable. This manifests most commonly in the fix-it reflex. I think most men are natural problem solvers. It's an admirable quality. You see a problem, you want to find a solution. But when it comes to emotional connection, it often backfires spectacularly. I remember once having a terrible day at work. I was venting to a guy I was seeing, telling him about my boss, the impossible deadline, the frustrating coworker. I wasn't asking for advice. I was just exhaling the stress of the day. Before I could even finish, he went into full-on strategy mode. Okay, here's what you do. First, you need to schedule a meeting with your boss, but you need to frame it this way. Second, for that coworker, you document everything. I just slowly went quiet. He thought he was helping, but what I felt was dismissed. My feeling of being overwhelmed was treated as an inconvenient problem he needed to solve so we could move on. What I wanted wasn't a 5-step plan. I just wanted him to say, "Wow, that sounds like a really tough day. I'm sorry." That simple act of validation is everything. It's being a witness. I have a friend who, after months of dating a new guy, finally told him about a really painful business failure she went through years ago. She was terrified. She expected him to analyze her mistakes, to say, "Well, what did you learn?" Or "You should have done it this way." That's what she was used to. But instead, he just listened. He watched her face as she told the story. When she was done, he was quiet for a moment, and then he just said, "That sounds like it was incredibly lonely. I'm so sorry you had to go through that by yourself." She told me later she almost started crying right there in the restaurant. It wasn't because he solved her past failure. It was because he didn't try to. He didn't judge the decision, he witnessed the feeling. He saw her pain, validated it, and simply sat with her in it for a moment. That is emotional safety. It's communicating, without words, "You can show me the messy parts. You can show me where you failed. They won't scare me away. I'm right here." Now, this doesn't mean you have to agree with everything she says or does. Being a witness doesn't mean being a doormat. If she's making a destructive choice, a true partner doesn't just sit back and watch. But the crucial difference is the order of operations. You connect with the emotion first, before you ever discuss the logic. Validate the feeling before you question the action. If she's upset about a fight with her sister, your first step isn't to figure out who is right. Your first step is to say, "It makes total sense that you're hurting right now." Fights with family are the worst. Once she feels seen and understood, once she knows you're on her team, then, and only then, can you have a productive conversation about the situation itself. Connection before correction. Always. Pillar 2, choose play over performance. Think back to my date with Mark. He was performing. Every story, every fact about himself, was a carefully curated exhibit designed to elicit a reaction of wow. The subtext of everything he said was, "Am I good enough for you? Let me prove it." This creates an unspoken pressure on the woman to also be impressive, to be on all the time. To be witty, beautiful, and interesting enough to deserve the attention of this perfect man. It's absolutely exhausting. Leo, on the other hand, chose play. By admitting he was nervous and sharing a story about his cooking disaster, he wasn't trying to build a pedestal for himself. He was building a playground for the two of us. A place where imperfection was not only tolerated but was the main event. A place where we could laugh, be a little goofy, and not take everything so seriously. Playfulness is the ultimate sign of emotional safety because it is the opposite of judgment. It says, we don't have to be perfect here. We can be human. This is why playful teasing, when done right, is so powerful. It's not about insulting her or finding her flaws. It's about noticing a small, endearing quirk, the way she wrinkles her nose when she concentrates, or how she always orders the spiciest thing on the menu, and turning it into a little secret language between you two. It creates a bubble of shared fun that belongs only to the two of you. Performance is predictable. You can see it coming. It follows a script. Play, on the other hand, is spontaneous. I went on a date once where we were supposed to go to a nice bar, but it was unexpectedly closed. The guy, instead of getting flustered, just looked at me with a grin and said, "Okay, plan B. There's an old school arcade 3 blocks from here. I bet I can beat you at skee-ball." The next hour was spent in a flurry of flashing lights and laughter, competing for cheap plastic prizes. We didn't have a single deep conversation. But I learned more about his character by how he celebrated my win and laughed at his own loss than I would have over 3 cocktails. He chose play over performance. When a woman associates you with laughter and lightheartedness, she associates you with relief. You become an escape from the pressures of the world, not another source of it. And that feeling is deeply, profoundly addictive. If this idea is starting to click for you, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. I think we need to have more honest conversations just like this. Pillar 3, be an anchor, not avoid. This is where the common dating advice about giving her space and letting her chase you comes from, but most people are teaching it completely wrong. They teach it as a tactic, a game of calculated absence you play to manipulate her interest. That approach is transparent, and it reeks of insecurity. The real power behind this concept has nothing to do with her, and everything to do with you. It's about being an anchor in your own life, not a void waiting for her to fill you up. A man who is a void is empty without her validation. His mood for the day is dictated by whether she sent a good morning text. His sense of self-worth is precariously tied to her attention. When he gives her space, it feels like a painful, needy silence. He's not really giving her space to miss him, he's just sitting by his phone, waiting anxiously for her to come back and fill his emptiness. He sends the passive-aggressive, "Hey, just making sure you're still alive haha" text. This behavior doesn't create attraction, it creates pressure. She can feel his emptiness, and it feels like a heavy burden of responsibility for his happiness. A man who is an anchor, however, is solid. He is moored to something real within himself. He has a mission, a purpose, passions, friendships, and goals that exist entirely independent of a woman's approval. He is genuinely busy building his own world. So when he gives her space, it's not a void, it's just him returning to his life. She doesn't feel manipulated, she feels a natural, powerful pull of curiosity and respect. She starts to wonder, what is he up to? What is he so passionate about that he can be so present with me, and then so focused when he's not? Her desire to be a part of his world isn't born from a trick he played, it's born from a genuine admiration for the world he's already built. She doesn't feel like she has to chase him, she wants to join him. She wants to be invited into that world he's so passionate about. An anchor provides safety because he's stable. His happiness doesn't ultimately depend on her, which paradoxically makes her feel free to want him without the suffocating pressure of being his sole source of validation. He is a man she can come back to, a stable point in a chaotic world, not a man she has to constantly rescue from his own insecurity. This self-possessed energy is the most magnetic quality a man can have. So, let's bring this all together. Forget the complex rules and tactics. This is not a checklist, it's a fundamental shift in your approach to connection. First, practice being a witness. When she talks, listen to understand the emotion behind the words, not just to find a problem you can fix. Let your first response be one of validation. Witness her experience without judgment. Second, have the courage to be imperfect. Intentionally choose play over performance. Share a story where you weren't the hero. Admit when you're nervous or when you've messed up. Trade the immense pressure of trying to be impressive for the simple freedom of being real. And third, focus on building your own life so relentlessly that you become an anchor. Cultivate a passion, a mission, or a purpose that sets your soul on fire. Your consistency and self-respect are the very bedrock of her emotional safety and your own happiness. At the end of the day, a woman doesn't become emotionally attached to a resume, a car, or a perfect life story. She becomes attached to a feeling. The feeling of a safe harbor. A man with whom she can finally take off the heavy armor she wears for the rest of the world and just breathe. The man who gives her that gift, the gift of being fully and completely herself without fear, is the man she will never forget. That is the ultimate attraction. But this is just my perspective, built from my own life and the stories I've seen. And I truly want to hear yours. What's a small thing someone did that made you feel completely safe and seen? Or on the flip side, what's something that instantly put a wall up for you? Share your story in the comments below. I promise you, I read them all, and they help all of us understand this better. If conversations like this are what you're looking for, real, honest, and from the other side of the table, consider subscribing and joining our community. My name is Olivia, and I'll see you in the next one.